The media has become obsessed with reporting rumors about the tensions within the Trump administration, as opposed to being obsessed with reporting the news, or telling the truth, or not being slimy knuckleheads damaging the country with their hysterical opposition to Republicans. No siree. So here's a roundup of recent reporting about the inner workings of the administration as the reports came direct from our Nose for News journalists. NBC has reported that anonymous sources told someone familiar with the situation, who called a friend of a friend, who then told a girl in the NBC mailroom whom he was sleeping with when it was supposed to be his weekend with the kids, that Donald Trump is angry at Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Sessions recused himself from the investigation into whether there was collusion between the cartoon Russian spies from the old Rocky and Bullwinkle shows and people Trump fired so long ago no one can remember who they are. The rumored reports of reported rumors that there are tensions between Trump and Sessions come hard on the heels of reported rumors that there are rumored reports of tensions between Trump and Steve Bannon. Bannon, of course, is chief strategist in charge of destroying all that's good and true in the universe in order to establish the supremacy of the white race over his office, which has been moved next to the West Wing men's room. According to the Washington Post, where democracy dies in darkness, but turning on the lights spikes the electricity bill, so to hell with it, Trump fell out with Bannon over Bannon's falling out with Sessions over his falling out with Trump. The Post received word of the feud from an anonymous friend of an anonymous source, actually named Anonymous, who said that Trump and Bannon were seen in an argument in the Oval Office, during which Trump hit Bannon's fist so hard that Bannon's arms swung around in a big circle, causing Bannon to punch himself on top of the head. Bannon responded by trying to poke the president in the eyes with 2 fingers, but the president put his hand on his forehead, blocking the strike, and then laughed at Bannon, saying, quote, "Nyuk, nyuk, nyuk," whereupon Bannon surprised the president by twisting his nose in a 180-degree circle. The Post report of the feud with Bannon over the NBC's report of the feud with Sessions may have been the result of a report on Axios that Bannon had arranged the firing of Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. According to anonymous sources familiar with the situation of other anonymous sources, Priebus only continues to show up for work at the White House because he's embarrassed to tell his wife that he's been fired 16 times. The reported Priebus firings are part of a reported administration shakeup that could affect every corner of journalists' imaginations. The reported drama and feuding in the White House will continue until reporters in Washington, D.C. find something useful to do with their lives. So don't expect it to end in the foreseeable future. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shape, tipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
We're still under battlefield conditions here. I'm back from my home in our new studio, but our new studio is not set up yet. So you see behind me, it's a beautiful studio, got a wonderful desk, got a fireplace. But right now, all we've got is these 2 lamps that we stole from Motel 6, where I was staying last night to evade the law. And also, I'm watching a screen on which I appear as I was 2 seconds ago. And let me tell you, I look so much younger then. I was really a good-looking guy in those days. It's the mailbag today. We do have the mailbag. We had to use, because these are battlefield conditions, we have to use an actual mailbag with paper letters. But we will answer all your questions with answers that are guaranteed 100% correct and will change your life on occasion for the better. Let us begin by giving you free food. That would be at least no matter how the show goes, at least you're going to get free food because we're advertising the wonderful Blue Apron. Blue Apron, which brings restaurant-level meals to your house for you to cook. They send you the ingredients, very simple instructions, and the ingredients are all measured out, so there's not a lot of cutting and dicing and all that stuff. You just read the instructions and you can cook together with your family and prepare these meals that are not your usual home-cooked meals. These are meals that you would go out to a restaurant for, but instead you make them yourself so everybody's very impressed with you and says, hey, I didn't know you could do that. But you can. You can have things like beef teriyaki stir fry with sugar snap peas and lime rice, not something that I can make off the top of my head. Baked spinach and egg flatbread with sauteed asparagus and lemon aioli, 3 cheese and baby broccoli stromboli with tomato and oregano dipping sauce. But you could choose your own stuff. You go on this website, all the stuff looks delicious, and it is delicious. I've tried it. And you just go on and you can pick this kind of stuff, arrange your own meals. It's delivered straight to your house. and it costs about $10 a meal, which is really good for a restaurant level meal. That's pretty incredible. And I say free food because you can check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. You do it by going to blueapron.com/Andrew. That's blueapron.com/Andrew. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So don't wait. Go today to blueapron.com/Andrew. Blue Apron, it is a better way to cook. And by the way, it's a better way to eat. You'll be eating better than you're eating right now. All right, so we are in the midst of what seems to be a developing story. I think we've got most of the pertinent facts. There was a terrible, just nightmarish sounding shooting in Washington. The Congress was preparing for its charity baseball game, and the Republicans were preparing, and a guy named James Hodgkinson is alleged. He is the alleged shooter. He is now dead. He's 66. He's from Illinois. He is a guy, when they go on his social media, he's a guy who spouts a lot of left-wing rhetoric, kind of very, what would you say, cliched left-wing rhetoric. And he opened up with a rifle and shot Steve Scalise, who is the majority whip, the Republican whip. And fortunately, because Scalise is apparently fine, well, let's hear Donald Trump talking about it. He made a statement today.
Melania and I are grateful for their heroism and praying for the swift recovery of all victims. Congressman Scalise is a friend, and a very good friend. He's a patriot, and he's a fighter. He will recover from this assault. And Steve, I want you to know that you have the prayers not only of the entire city behind you, but of an entire nation and, frankly, the entire world. America is praying for you, and America is praying for all of the victims of this terrible shooting.
So Scalise, the lucky thing was that because Scalise is in leadership, because he's the whip, he has a contingent of cops to protect him. And of course the cops and another guy with a gun, apparently, I haven't quite got this information yet, took the shooter down, and they were wounded as well. And those are the heroes the president is talking about. Rand Paul described this thing being in a shooting situation where you are unarmed, because of course Washington, D.C. has such a stringent anti-gun laws that it's very, very hard even to get a carry permit for your home. And they've had real problems with the Supreme Court saying, they've gone too far. So nobody was armed. So Congressman Rand Paul describes what a nightmare it is to be in this situation without firearms.
Our lives were saved by the Capitol Hill Police. Had they not been there, I think it would have been a massacre. And you are completely helpless. And, having no self-defense and no way to get to somebody, the field was basically a killing field. I mean, if you were to run out there while the shooter was still shooting, he would have shot anybody. He was shooting people as far away as right field. So, I mean, I think that's probably, 75 yards or so, and that's about where we were. I was lucky to be that far away, but he's still shooting people 75 yards away, and there's no stopping, and it appeared as if after a while that he might have been advancing, and had the Capitol Hill Police not been there, he could have walked around the field and just shot everybody. Your only chance would have been to run, and so at some point we decided escape was really the only option, and we did have a route of escape. The people in the dugout had no route, though, because they're in a dugout that goes down a foot or two. Their only chance of survival is to get down below the surface of the ground, and if they were to come and pop up, they're only 20 yards from the shooter, and so they really had no choice. Had the Capitol Hill Police not been there to prevent the advance of the gunman, as terrible as it is, it could have been a lot worse.
Really, I mean, it just sounds absolutely horrific. Jeff Flake, Congressman Jeff Flake, apparently after the shooter was taken down, rushed out of the dugout to get to the wounded Scalise and stop the bleeding, or at least put some pressure on the bleeding, use his belt for a tourniquet. It was, it seems, a politically motivated crime. Now, that doesn't mean that the guy is some great political philosopher. It means most of these guys are deeply mentally ill. Most shooters are deeply mentally ill, but his mental illness was keyed off his politics. Congressman Ron DeSantis seemed to have had a meeting, a confrontation, an encounter with the guy before the shooting took place. So here's DeSantis describing that.
I actually left a little early, probably about a couple minutes before this all happened, and as I was getting into the car with one of my colleagues, Jeff Duncan, there was a guy that walked up to us that was asking whether there was Republicans or Democrats out there, and it was just a little odd, and then he kind of walked towards the area where all this happened. So we've told the police that.
Was he carrying anything?
He was not carrying anything at the time, but from where the shots were, I would think that would have probably been staged, because there was no one that was obviously walking around with a rifle at the time. But it was just a little odd that he kind of really, walked up to us to ask, and then went ahead, and it was probably like 5 minutes after we pulled out of the parking lot.
What time did you leave, Congressman? Because according to Brett Baer, the shooting started this morning at 7:15, the gunman with a rifle.
We left it probably no later than 7:10.
So he just got out of there before the thing opened. I mean, the whole thing just sounds like a nightmare. Now, I know what you're wondering. Yesterday, I was talking about the Julius Caesar in Central Park, where Julius Caesar is dressed up as Donald Trump, and every night, courtesy of the funding from the New York Times and courtesy of funding from Time Warner, the owners of CNN, every night the audience stands up and cheers to the sight of Donald Trump being knifed to death. And you're wondering if I'm going to blame this shooting on them, and am I going to blame it on Kathy Griffin for holding up the severed head of Donald Trump and all the people who have been talking about Donald Trump at the level of rhetoric that they've been talking about. And I'm not. And there's one very specific reason that I'm not going to do that. And the reason is I don't work for CNN, and I don't work for the New York Times, and I don't work for the ABC, and I don't work for the left-wing media that does this all the time. We only have to go back. I mean, you could go back to John F. Kennedy and the whole fact that they covered up, they spent 20 years, 30 years, 40 years covering up the fact that Kennedy was a Cold Warrior killed by a communist. But let's not go back that far. Let's just go back to 2011 when Gabby Giffords, a congresswoman, was shot in a terrible incident in Arizona. I want to start just reminding you, because it's not enough for me to talk about it. I want to play some of this stuff from that time. But first I want to start by playing a friend. The shooter's name was Jared Loughner, and he was, like all these guys, a crackpot. And I hesitate to call him schizophrenic, though that's technically what he had. And the only reason I hesitate to do that is most schizophrenics, it's a tormenting, terrible disease. And most schizophrenics are incredibly, are peaceful and never cause harm. So I don't want to demonize them, but it's some kind of, people do this stuff almost always because they are mentally ill. Almost always. It's because they're mentally ill, especially in America, where we're really not dealing, thank God, with the kinds of things that need to be stopped with a gun. But let's just play. Here is Jared Loughner's buddy who is talking about his motivation. This is cut 2.
He did not watch TV. He disliked the news. He didn't listen to political radio. He didn't take sides. He wasn't on the left. He wasn't on the right.
Okay. And here is a montage from Reason TV of the incredible barrage of rhetoric against Sarah Palin and other right-wing commentators, other people who made comments that could be construed as violent. Sarah Palin had put a rifle sight over, among others, Gabby Giffords' area, her area that she was the congresswoman over, saying we've got to target these areas and take them over. And this was blamed. The sheriff in Arizona blamed Sarah Palin, blamed other Republican candidates, and the news just ran with it. Here is a montage, a selection.
Party has treated this tragedy in a reprehensible way. They claim their rhetoric has nothing to do with the shooting.
A lot of his political philosophy was anti-government.
He had picked up some of the extreme right positions.
It's sprinkled with things anti-government.
Seeing the government as an enemy.
What's been the role of talk radio in fueling the heated language? Wouldn't you be smiling too if you had the entire Democrat Party running interference for you?
To try to inflame the public on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It does impact people who may have a mental problem.
Palin, Beck, Sharon Engel, and the rest got their first target.
Glenn Beck himself has been responsible for 3 thwarted assassination attempts this year.
If Glenn
Beck, who obsesses nearly as strangely as this Mr. Loeffner did about gold and debt.
The books you mentioned, there's a theme that runs through all of them, in particular the Ayn Rand book, the idea of the individual against the state.
They refuse to stop calling it a jobs-killing health care repeal.
The right wing loves the go-to rhetoric for them is, wouldn't it be fun to kill the people we just...
Yeah, so that was the left reacting to the shooting, the non-political shooting by a madman of Gabby Giffords, and we are not going to do that because we're not them. But that in itself creates a problem. And I just want to end this part before we say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. I just want to end by talking about Ross Douthat's column this morning, which I bet he wishes he had back, talking about Julius Caesar in the park. And Douthat is one of the House conservatives at the New York Times. And he wrote a column called The Trumpiest Roman of Them All. And it begins, the problem with staging a Julius Caesar in which Caesar clearly resembles Donald Trump, the culture war controversy du jour, thanks to Shakespeare in the Park, isn't that doing so encourages the president's assassination. So we know that right there. No, the problem with the Trumpified Caesar is that the conceit fails to illuminate our moment the way a good classical illusion should. That's the problem with putting that in the park, just so you know. So we're going to continue talking about this because it really does create a very specific moral dilemma for us. But first I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, but that means horrors, you're going to miss the mailbag. But if you come over to I know, it's like that. Your life is going to continue just the way it is. Look in the mirror. Is that what you want? No. DailyWire.com, come on over. You can hear the rest of the show. If you subscribe, you can watch the show on the site and be in next week's mailbag.